You know, for someone that does YouTube content, I think I should be lucky that I support West Ham United because for a YouTube content provider, it's the club that gives on giving. It's the gift that gives on gifting. But I'm not like that. When I look at the kind of news that's out there, I'm sometimes really quite reluctant to put it out because it can be quite depressing and quite demoralizing, and you just think, oh my god, is there anything really positive to talk about when it comes to West Ham United? But here I am again, Thursday morning. I hope you're all doing well. The end of the week is nigh, and if you're new to the channel, please do consider becoming a subscriber. And whether you're new or an existing subscriber, please do hit that like button if you appreciate the content that I'm putting out. So what should we start with? Well, we can only start with what I talked about on Wednesday, and that's Mohammed Kudus. West Ham have decided that they're going to contest the FA charges that have been brought against them and against the player after the player was sent off in the match last weekend against Spurs. Now, the FA statement read that Tottenham Hotspur allegedly failed to ensure that their players didn't behave in an improper manner and or provocative way around the 82nd minute. It went on to read, West Ham United allegedly failed to ensure that their players didn't behave in an improper and or provocative and or violent way at the same time. So the difference between the two charges is the mention of violence, violent conduct, which obviously reflects on what Mohammed Kudus did during the game. Now, West Ham are contesting this. The words of violent contact were not mentioned in the charge against Spurs. And whilst Spurs have reluctantly accepted the charge and have now been fined £20,000, West Ham are contesting the charge because if we didn't, this could automatically mean that Kudus' 3-match ban could be increased to possibly 6 matches. Now, I said that Spurs have reluctantly accepted these charges because Postecoglou has come out to say that he doesn't know what his players did wrong. And Mickey van der Ven has followed this up by suggesting that Mohammed Kudus punched him in the face. Well, we can all see as clear as day that Kudus absolutely did not punch van der Ven. Ironically, it is yet more surprising that Spurs have also not been charged with violent conduct after van der Ven stated that he had a duel with Kudus, he fell down on the ground, then he got up and admitted that he pushed Kudus. So in essence, it was van der Ven who actually started the melee, but he was only shown the yellow card and nothing more is going to be done to the player. When you look back on it again, the Ghanaian, Kudus, simply seemed to protect himself. He was pushed, he kind of reacted. So van der Ven went on to say that Kudus had punched him. It's quite a serious allegation, to say that when it's plain as day that we saw in the videos in the game that that did nothing of the sort happened. So this was then followed up by the provocative comments aimed at Kudus from Papa Sarr, who raced across to the incident that happened on the pitch when he didn't need to do so. And whatever was said clearly provoked Kudus even further. West Ham will argue that the initial punishment of a red card is probably sufficient enough for what had happened, and there should be no further retrospective action. And if anything, one could argue that the initiation of van der Ven pushing Kudus should have also rendered further punishment, or should have rendered them being liable for having initiated the melee in the first place. Now, I would hope West Ham will also raise the issue of the amateur dramatics of both van der Ven and Richarlison, who both seem to have gone down as if they were hit by sniper bullets. West Ham are likely to suggest that the way Van der Ven dramatically fell to the ground, led to VAR to intervene after the referee had initially only given Kudus and Van der Ven yellow cards. It's possible that if Van der Ven had not overreacted, then maybe that yellow card might have stood and Kudus might have stayed on the pitch. It's also possible that maybe the FA charge is because of what Kudus did with Pape Sarr. But then it should be investigated as to what Pape Sarr said to Kudus in order to gauge such a reaction to him. Either way, it's well within West Ham's remit to contest and to try and protect the player, Kudus, from a further retrospective ban. And I'm sure a conclusion to this will probably reach before the weekend. So Kudus will start serving his 3-match ban from the Man United game. And let's hope that we actually win this one and no more retrospective action is taken. And then, of course, we have the mysterious case of Niclas Fullkrug, which has taken also a turn for the worst. The player, as we now know, flew out to Germany on Wednesday to have an injection to try and help clear his injury. Now, the injection is likely to be a high-volume injection, a HVI. The injection, which is injected into the space between the tendon and its sheath, the tendon guard. The injection usually contains saline salt water and a local anesthetic, and it acts as a healing process and reduces pain around that area. It's carried out by ultrasound, by a doctor, etc., and more than 50% of patients benefit from it. Fullkrug will then need at least 3 days rest and may even be given an air cast boot to wear for a few days to protect that area. Fullkrug might then be able to return to some light training about a week later, but rehabilitation could take several weeks longer. This is ringing a massive alarm bell when we were initially told that Fullkrug would probably only be out until the recent international window, be back after that, but it's looking more likely he may not even be back for the November until the November international window, and maybe even further ahead as well. Now, also, the massive alarm bell is this. If it's such a simple procedure, a simple process, then why not do it here? And why did he have to fly to Germany for this to be done? It's not a specialist procedure that only a German doctor can administer. This could have been done here. And what has been happening in the month since he sustained this injury? Now, could the injection not be administered sooner after the injury had occurred? And of course, this is beginning to suggest, as I've just said, that Fullkrug may not be back in action for at least another month, if not longer than that. Fullkrug was interviewed on a German YouTube channel recently and was asked why he decided to join West Ham in the summer. He admitted that Tim Steidten was the main reason for his moving to the club, and that part of the reason for his poor start to life in the Premier League is a lack of real rest in the summer. He said he had a long campaign last season. He played something like 57 games without a proper summer break. So it looks as if we not only did we have a Niclas Fullkrug who's prone to injuries, we also had Niclas Fullkrug who hasn't had a proper rest, which has probably led to him being injured. Should he have gone on international duty in October or September? Sorry, I'm not so sure now. Maybe he shouldn't have done. It's beginning to seem that this was a poor decision by Tim Steidten to bring Fullkrug to the club when he already knew about his injuries, the injury record that he had, as well as knowing that the player was unlikely to hit the ground running from day one because he was clearly fatigued. And it just seems to be a perpetual issue with us, doesn't it? That we're always unlucky with strikers. And that leads me on to the January transfer window. Various stories are being rumoured that West Ham United are looking at a number of players, especially another striker target. Apparently, Lopetegui has told the board that he needs a striker in the next window, and possibly other players in other positions too, with the likes of fullback, left back, Ben Chilwell of Chelsea, and let me get his name correct, Carney Chukwuemeka, the 21-year-old central midfielder, being targeted. Now, both players were linked to West Ham in the summer window, but nothing materialized with both. I think Chukwuemeka was a player that was talked about right at the very end of the summer transfer window, but nothing materialized. However, it's going to be interesting to see whether the West Ham board will want to invest even more money into transfers. Maybe not even buy. Maybe they won't even want to invest in loans because from what we understand, well, we've already got 2 loans anyway, but whatever happens, this will just add to the wage bill. And if anything, it might mean that we will have to move players on in order to bring other players in. I think we're going to have a massive conundrum here as the January window looms closer, because it seems evident that Lopetegui wants more players. The board are likely to say that there's no money for more players. And we all know that Lopetegui walked away from Wolves when he believed they didn't back him in the transfer market, apparently broken promises, etc. And it seems fairly obvious that the Spanish head coach is not going to be too enamored with all the players given to, or has not been too enamored with all the players that's been given to him by Tim Steidten in this summer transfer window. Yes, okay, Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Todibo, Rodriguez, they're getting regular game time, but that's just 4 of the 9 new faces made available to him that he's utilising on a regular basis. I guess one could argue that Wes Foderingham was never really going to get too much game time, given that he's the 3rd choice keeper, and perhaps players like Carlos Soler have been waiting patiently in the wings, then they might get their time anytime soon. But there is one player who might feel more aggrieved than any of the other new signings, who isn't getting the game time that I guess many of us thought he would get. And that, of course, is Crysencio Summerville. Whilst Lopetegui recently spoke of Summerville and said that he needed to be patient and that it's a long season ahead and, he will get game time, etc. I guess now with Kudus out for the next 3 games, we're expecting Summerville to start the game against Man United on Sunday. I guess Lopetegui is going to have to show faith in this former Leeds United player. But if Summerville doesn't start on Sunday against Man U, that action could speak louder than words, because it will continue to suggest that Lopetegui is probably not happy with all the players that Tim Steidten signed in the summer transfer window. If you recall, during that window, I suggested that both the technical director and the head coach would have been having long conversation. Well, we even heard about how Lopetegui has been looking at the team, the players, the kind of players that he needed. There must have been ongoing conversations about the type of players and the positions that Lopetegui wanted. If the head coach now doesn't use the likes of Summerville, now that he's got an opportunity to do so, big questions are going to be asked whether Lopetegui's actually happy with the players that he's been given. If Summerville doesn't start, it will prove that there is, or there has been, a massive disconnect between Steidten and Lopetegui. If that turns out to be the case, all eyes on what may happen with Lopetegui leading up to the end of this calendar year, and whether he will stay because results have improved, or whether he would leave. And there are probably 2 reasons why he might leave. The first, because the results haven't improved and he may get the sack, or the second, because if he doesn't get more players in order to look like he's being backed, he may decide to walk away yet again from a club, just like he did with Wolves a season ago. The saga goes on. It's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. Do subscribe and like the video. Subscribe and you can sort of stay with me to follow the saga as it unfolds. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you all very soon.